Welcome to Meaningful Morning. If you can rewind 2 years, the most significant happening for most of us was a sad number of people who were getting sick and dying in Bharat, in India. And so what we did, we all gathered for May Day. It was Saturday, May 1st. In the 100 hours leading up to May Day, including May Day, our community had raised $71,000 for those who are struggling with COVID in India, particularly to buy machines related to oxygen. And our community didn't stop there. Within that week, we completed raising and sending $105,000 for our family, for humanity. I share this with all of us because the word tapa comes in the Bhagavad Gita, comes in self-development many times, and it means to burn one's comfort zone. It means who you are today is to be accepted, but not tomorrow. One is to aspire to be more large-hearted. We call this yoga. When we use the past as precedent, we have more faith to move forward. If we all remember what we did together 2 years ago, it provides us fuel that we can do much more today, tomorrow, forever. Our children, they like to watch videos on how you make things, how volcanoes work, how train engines work. And often in these videos, you see the individual parts. You can all visualize that. There's a spinning thing, there's a rod, stuff like that. And then it's all put together, and you have that volcano, or you have this engine. Whether they're individual parts or they're put together, in the case of an engine, it's still mostly just metal. Individually or collectively, the material, the essence, has not changed. Similarly, if we look at each other's faces, our bodies, yours look pleasant. No comment about what you're looking at right now, but yours looks pleasant. But if we dissected all of that into parts, Pujaswami Chinmayan in this commentary on Vivekachudamani, he describes this in a visceral way. Imagine we were just put aside into buckets. So for Vivek, imagine you saw a bucket of hair. I may have 2 buckets of hair. A bucket of skin, a bucket of blood, a bucket of bones. You wouldn't want to see me even virtually. So whether it's in a collection or it's individualized, it's still dying matter. This is what Sri Krishna is trying to show us in this beginning portion of Bhagavad Gita, it's chapter 13, that just because this is put together, an engine, a body, creation, doesn't make this different than just matter. In verse 5, Sri Krishna shares, you are not the elements. It doesn't matter what combination or permutation of elements there are. This is not you. Which makes it easier and more natural to feel what we are, which is existence. in verse 6. Yesterday morning I had shared it's verse 7. I was very sleepy yesterday morning. Every morning I am, but yesterday particularly, so I misshared what that verse was. Shri Krishna is sharing the elements, they are like a factory, that they keep producing different facets of our inner world, our outer world. Some we label as noble, some as ignoble. Again, these elements are just a factory. Nobody lives in a factory, correct? A factory has a purpose. Build me this so I can use this, but that's not who I am. Connecting this to our Divine Mother. One of Bhagavati's names is Chamunda. How many of you have heard this before? A beautiful name. Rarely do people have these names, but they should. Chamu means a collection, an assembly, what this factory makes. Da means the one who destroys. The one who destroys this idea that I am this collection, this assembly, that is our Divine Mother. And we see her holding a sword, we see her holding a trident, but we rarely listen to her. We only see her without listening to her. Do you know what's on her lips? What she's whispering to us? The Brahmakara Vritti, which means the thought that makes you feel you are existent. She's teaching Aham Brahmasmi. I am existence. Is everyone feeling moved? These insights are infinitely, exponentially more nourishing than any food, than any sleep. When the heart is full, the stomach is full. When the heart is full, the brain is full. One doesn't need to sleep as much. You just want to see her lips and listen to her more. And this brings us to an awesome section of Bhagavad Gita. It's as if Prince Arjuna has asked 6 questions. In verse 2, the answer to what the Kshetrajna is given. In verse 6, the answer to the Kshetra is given. And now in verses 7 to 11, the answer to what jnana is given. This section of Bhagavad Gita is possibly the most popular section on values. Why not the section on chapter 12? In chapter 12, the verses we went through, the values we went through, were less definitive. Pujaswami Chinmayananda counts them in a different way. I narrated them in a different way. So it's less definitive. It is popular, but less definitive. But when matters are more definitive, it's easier for us to orient ourselves to. That's this section. Many years ago, I facilitated an entire retreat for young adults. Using this as the content, this retreat was called Virtues for Relationships. I interacted with a young couple who just got married, and they're in marriage counseling, marriage therapy. Good, they're being proactive. And what I'd shared with one of them was keep reflecting on these verses. These are so important. In 2009, I started to write the E-Vichara. How many of you have received this at one point in your life? A lot of you. This is how we used to stay connected before virtual classes, correct? Every 2 weeks you would see my name in your inbox and you would delete it or put it into the the restricted folder, the folder that you report to the government. So I wrote this for 10 years. In 2019, I just couldn't keep up with this. Shuka was born, so I couldn't. But anyways, if you go back into that, I wrote 5 vicharas on these virtues. So I'm trying to emphasize how transformative your understanding of this can be. With this, we're now on verse 7. There are 20 values. That is not open to interpretation. So start charting them out. Amanitvam, adhambitvam, ahimsa, shantir, arjavam, achayopasanam, shaucham, steryam, atma vinigraha. Joy. I chanted this in a broken up way, so at least through an audio way, you know where these different values are. How many of you have been part of seeking culture or parenting culture over the past year? How awesome that that's coming to a conclusion and this is coming to a commencement. Shri Krishna loves you. Just like in Bhagavata, he's holding Rishi Uddhava's hands and sharing, is this clear to you? Because if it's not, I'll give you more. I'll help you more. You are Rishi Uddhava. The first value, amanitva. I'm going to give you a very succinct, practical definition for all of these. Amanitva is humility. Humility. And now we've come across a beautiful reference for humility. It's not just letting go of deservership and doership, but also knowership. Remember we came across that? Who is the knower? In our weekly classes, we've begun giving everyone the opportunity to express their gratitude through generosity. Yesterday in our Bhagavata course, the seeker spoke about how much he's been reflecting on the fact that he has the ability and availability to learn, that he's not the knower, that awareness is humility, even at the knowing level. Number 2, adhambitva, which means integrity. That before you open your mouth, you've thought about what you're going to say. When you act, is it aligned with your value system? I was recently at someone's home and I was listening to Meaningful Mornings and they looked at me like, you're listening to your own teachings. And I was like, who else would I listen to? But I was telling them that I make so many mistakes when I speak, so I want to catch those mistakes and correct them. If I said something that I didn't think, then I have to fix that. Number 3, ahimsa, which in English means sensitivity. You know there's more to you than just a body. So you also know the same for another and you treat them that way. See, I know that an animal is as valuable as I am, which is why I don't include them in my diet. Sensitivity. Number 4, shanti. I'm saying that with a K. Shanti. In English, forgiveness. If you think of the earliest or primary beneficiary of forgiving, it's not the person you forgive, it's you. Our children woke up and the first thing they shared this morning was not, Appa, you do so much for us. Please give us cereal. It's put batteries in our Jeep. Shuka's birthday is coming up, so someone had given him and Vyasa a Jeep. And so my point is that their primary thought is about this Jeep. They're the beneficiaries of this, then everything else. So the same goes with forgiveness. You your thoughts become quiet first. Number 5, Arjava, like Arjuna. And that is authenticity. Authenticity is when you don't change who you are because of a person. You don't change who you are. And I'll give you a light example of this, and then I'll explain the rest of the verse later. Shankarji, whom you all know, and I teach together in Seeking Culture, which is for young adults. And he had come with me to a Pearl Jam concert some time ago. And later, when he was teaching our college students, he was sharing that when I interact with Shankarji, and then I interact with my high school friends, that I don't change at all. And he was giving that as an example of Arjava. And now you just think about yourself. When you're with different types of people, do you still behave in the same way? Or you keep being a chameleon to be liked? This is the beginning part of this verse, just the first line. Just in this verse, there's 9 values out of 20. So reflect lots. We'll continue, obviously. From inspiration to application. Your application was to invite a family member, a friend, anyone who needs to know more about values. So really, that's everyone, correct? How many of you tried this by show of hands? Good. Those who tried this, you know what you're doing? You're blending the sacred into the secular. If you analyze the most popular teachers in the world, teachers of self-development, they blend the secular and the sacred. They're diluting the sacred. I'm asking you to blend the sacred into the secular. You should be diluting the secular, not the sacred. So be courageous and invite people to know more about these values. Your application for this morning. What is the ideal gauge of faith? If you came to my home and you were to analyze my faith, what would be the variable, the factor, the filter by which you would say I'm faithful or not? What is the most accurate gauge of faith? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be joy.